So I guess the plot thickens? Is that the right approach we should take to this? Of course I'm talking about Predator, Pinball, Skit B, and all the drama that is pre-order pinball machines. We'll get into some of that here on Coast to Coast Pinball episode number 147. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast, it's a commentary, man out of quarters. This is sort of an open letter to Skit B Pinball, and Kevin specifically. Gotta just jump into this. It's blown up a lot. Kevin released a new email to his people in the game. There were allusions made to the story coming out through Martin at Pinball News and possibly certain podcasts. I am assuming I'm in that list in his head. Full disclosure, Kevin and I have had 3 emails since all this sort of has gotten dirty. I emailed him once, he replied. I emailed him back, did not hear a reply, but I know that some things that I suggested to him, nothing to do with my show, just as a business suggestion. I know some of that has happened, and I think that's helping. Not that I'm the only reason any of that happened, but it was just, I suggested something that I thought was fairly obvious, and then that was happening, so whatever. So Kevin has basically come out now and said, concerning Predator Pinball, yes, there were issues with our license to build Predator Pinball. He said that he went to look for that information on his license so he could prove the doubters wrong, and he found out that he didn't have what he had. I am not going to use this forum to question whether or not everything Kevin says is exactly true. I will point out what I think. I think that I doubt that, seriously. I do doubt that story exactly as it is. I think more likely Kevin already knew that he didn't know some stuff previous about his license. I think that's already pretty obvious based on all the things we talked about the last time I discussed Predator. The scrubbing of the website, the silence, some of the information that's been alluded to by this group of anonymous folks that are out to try and, quote, find some truth here. So I love guilty, I love innocent till proven guilty. I totally believe that. I think it's a great way to run a justice system. I also believe, though, in the old cliche, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think clearly there's some major issues, and have been major issues, with Skit B and a legal license to build and sell Predator pinball machines. Do I think that Kevin at some point was told by Fox, yeah, you can build a pinball machine to take to trade shows, to show your friends, to play in your basement? I'm going to go ahead and believe that. I do believe that. Do I believe that there was ever a legal agreement that really led Skit B Pinball to think they could sell hundreds of games with the intellectual property from the movie Predator, the likeness of Arnold Schwarzenegger, the music from the movie, etc., etc., etc.? I don't believe that was ever in place, ever. I don't believe it ran out. I just don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I want the best for pinball. I don't necessarily want the best for Skit B. And that may come off a little bit harsh, because I think Kevin's a nice guy, and I think he's way in over his head here. But I don't really know that that's really all that important to me, personally. I do feel very bad for the couple hundred people with money tied up in this mess. I don't want those people to feel that I'm neglecting them in my thoughts. It sucks. I feel bad for you. You wouldn't have known. It was an exciting time. Pinball was coming back, and somebody who also loved pinball was going to build a game based on an awesome license, and you got on board. And hey, we had just seen the craziness of Big Bang Bar. Big Bang Bar wasn't ever going to get built. That was a pipe dream, and guess what? It got built, and all those that were in it made a lot of money on those games if they so chose to sell them. So we also saw the spiking of prices of anything that was sort of rare or low run. So at that time, I totally understand getting in on Predator. I don't think anybody should feel bad about getting in on Predator. Like I said last show, hindsight being what it is, you can go back through all the things said, through all the hints and non-hints, that we can look back now with this clear vision and see that there were just gaping wide holes in the story of the license with the Predator game. What I want to get off my chest first is a plea, an open plea to Kevin and Skit B Pinball. And maybe I should be writing this in an email, but I don't want to. I really don't want to. I just want to say it. I'm just going to say it here and throw this out there. Here's what I think you should do. This is an open letter that I'm going to speak to Skit B Pinball, and I have your best interest, pinball community's best interest, and other companies going forward trying to sell a product's best interest here. When I say this, believe me, I have no agenda. I have no agenda. Hit the eject button. Get out. Bail on this project. If I were in the position Kevin is in right now, knowing what I know and knowing what's out in the public, and I don't know a lot. I got some flack on Pinside about like withholding all this information. You know what? I only withhold stuff that was secondhand that I didn't feel comfortable saying, because if I was wrong, it wasn't me being wrong, it was someone else being wrong, and I would rather not let that happen. So, look, get out. Kevin, you need to refund all the money. You need to spend a week calling every single person that sent you money and saying to them the truth. I don't think we've seen the whole truth. I really don't. I get a good sense for these things. We haven't seen the whole truth. I think you need to call all the people that sent you money. In fact, I think you need to take whatever money you have and you need to divide it by the number of people in. Now, if there's people that are in for less than the full pop, the math gets a little more complicated. We don't do a lot of math here on Coast to Coast Pinball. But what I would do if I was Kevin, and I'm going to paint this in the scenario that I don't think Kevin has all the money. I don't think Kevin spent all the money, but I don't think he has all the money either. There's been money spent. So let's just use some round numbers. And these numbers are not accurate. I'm just using numbers for an example. Let's say he took in $500,000 to build Predator games from pre-order money. Just throwing a number out there that's easy to work with. And let's say he has $400,000 left. I would give everybody some money back. Get everybody paid back some money. In fact, I would probably try and pay as many people back in full as I could. I would get everybody something. If you have half the people with $2,500 and half the people with $5,000, using round numbers, I would give everybody $2,500 back, and then I would take the remaining people with more money and give them all some portion back. I'd get the money back. I would write to the IP holders and Fox, the license holders, whoever it is, Fox, I guess, and I would apologize. I would throw myself on the mercy of the movie studio and get out. I would stop trying to fix this. I would stop trying to put bandages and tourniquets and resuscitate this game at this point. It's too far gone. This is not a good thing. Yes, I know there are a handful of very loyal people who will type in capital letters, "I just want my Predator game." Stop listening to them. Give them their money back. Give them their money back. Get the money back out. Eject on the game. Come clean to everyone. Tell everyone, I screwed up, and I don't know exactly how you screwed up. I just don't. But you screwed up somewhere, because either you were incredibly naive and thought that somebody told you could build and sell machines, you thought that you were a non-profit company, and you thought that you could build all these games in your basement. Either that, or at some point you made a decision to try and get away with some stuff here. You tried to build a game with intellectual property that you didn't own and hope no one would catch you. You thought that maybe under the guise of being a, quote, non-profit company, well, I'm not profiting on this, so it's okay, right? Just like the one game I was told I could build and take to trade shows. That wasn't for profit, that was for fun. Just like these 250, because I'm a not-for-profit company. I don't think you understand what a not-profit company is. I would write a letter to the pinball community, and I would apologize, and I would tell my story, and honestly, I would tell it as dirty and ugly as it is. If I had been... Look, Kevin, if you have been lying on any level, all the way through right now, Wednesday night, March 18th, 2015, if you've been lying the whole time, I would stop, I would write my letter and say, look, I got caught up, I've been lying to myself, I've been lying to you, the pinball community, I want to get it off my chest, I want to get your money back, I probably can't pay it all back right now, I will work to pay it back, I may pay you guys back over the next 5 years, whatever, I'm going to pay you all back. I would go to Fox and I would say, I don't want to build this game, I totally screwed up, I don't know what I was thinking, please don't come after me. If that's a possibility, please don't come after me. I would say, I don't want to build this game. I don't want your license. I'm really, really sorry. I'm going to be in debt over this fiasco. My pinball reputation is really, really kind of destroyed right now. Huge lesson learned. I will be the poster boy for not doing things like this. I would throw myself on the mercy of them. I would call every single person that sent you money personally, and I would have a lot of hard conversations. Because at the end of the day, it's only pinball. It's only pinball. But you will sleep better if you just get it off your chest. You'll rest easier. Life will go on. You'll be fine. You will be fine. This is not the end of the world. It's just not. I know it might seem like it when you read that Pinside thread, that this is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. It's not. It's not. People screw up. People have done much, 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 much worse and been forgiven and moved on with their life. Kevin, I would get out of pinball for a while. I would just get out of pinball for a while. I don't think you can build these machines. I think it's going to be a financial nightmare based on your own numbers that I've seen you post on the price of the game, and based on you yourself telling me in person that you couldn't have Jersey Jack build Game 1 because you didn't budget for it, but Game 2 was going to be budgeted for it. Knowing that, there's no money for you to make in Predator, and I know that it's probably... The light at the end of the tunnel is, at least I'll save face once I ship these games. We're past that. It's past that. Get out of this thing. I'm going to be really brutal here, just because at this point I don't think it matters. I didn't comment a lot on Predator when I first played it as an actual pinball machine, because the games were sold out. So all I would be doing at that point, by coming on this show, about almost a year ago, after I played it at Texas, all I would have been doing, coming on here and saying what I'm about to say, would have been telling 250 people, I don't like what you bought. And it didn't matter because your games are sold out, right? What's it matter? So I found the positives. I think your rule set ideas were great. I think the lighting idea was cool. Whether or not it worked fully remained to be seen. I think the spirit of what you were trying to do was always there. I really believe that. Some kids in the basement, we love pinball, we're going to build pinball with this awesome adult theme. Yes, loved that. So I found the positive. I don't think your pinball machine was all that compelling. It was okay. I didn't really care for the layout. The artwork was not that great. I think it was made... excused away because it was supposed to be going for that 80s Data East feel. It looks like Contra, the Nintendo game. It wasn't that great, honestly. Game didn't play all that great. The geometry needed some tweaking. And quite honestly, most people I talked to off the record and away from this show echoed that sentiment without me prepping them for it. So I don't think we are losing some great part of pinball history if you just bail on this project right now. If you really, in your heart of hearts, feel that the thing to do here to make your life better is build a Predator pinball machine, I would eject away from this thing. I would go back to Fox later with whoever in tow helping you secure a license. Find somebody who works with licenses and help them secure the license on the up and up and know exactly what you're getting into. And I would work with artists and designers and let them help you design an awesome game. I think you had a start to a game, and it was a valiant effort, but with all that has gone on at this point, if you'd shipped the game a year ago like it was, great. Hey, you have a game. You built a game with Predator. It's awesome. I still wouldn't have ever loved that game. I didn't really love the game, but I thought the rules were cool. Thought it had some old school kind of Fast and Furious pinball vibe to it. I would have found good stuff about that game. But where we stand now, it's kind of spoiled. And now all I can think is, even if you do go out and secure this license now, even if you do go find a manufacturer to, let's just say it, bail you out here. Because even if there was no problem with the license, how are you going to build these games? I mean, come on. I'm just trying to be real here. It's going to take you forever to build these games. So even if you do find a company that is willing to build these games and bail you out, maybe even put their name on it for all we know. I don't know. Even if you do all that, I don't think that the game itself is going to overshadow all these problems. I don't get that feeling. And that may sound harsh, and I think that it's kind of like, look, I work for a company that was founded by a guy who wanted to start building guitars when he was like 15 years old. And he spent months and months and months and years building his first few guitars. And they were okay. They were really okay for your first guitars. He would be the first person to tell you, Bob Taylor would be the first person to tell you those guitars were not fit for the world and the public. And they were great first attempts, but they weren't ready for prime time. And I just think building a game all on your own like this, and it being your first attempt at it, and I don't know how many Whitewoods you did, I don't know the whole long process, and I know you took a lot of input, but I don't think it's your best effort. And with all the drama that's gone on behind it and the negative connotations that are now fully encompassing Skit-B pinball, I'd walk away. I would walk away and I would pay my debts to the people that sent me money, and I would take my lumps, whether it's with Fox, whether it's with the pinball community at large. I would take my lumps, because honestly, you're going to feel so much better doing that than struggling and clawing through this mess right now. It's my advice to you. But you know what? Who am I? I'm just some dude who records himself talking into a computer about pinball and hopes that people listen to it, right? I don't mean to be over dramatic, but it's just a crazy situation. It really is, because there's all this talk of it killed pre-order pinball and it's ruined everything and it's going to have this giant effect on the pinball community. You know what? Actually, it's not. It's actually not going to have much effect on the pinball community at all. It's become a big talking point on Pinside, but let's just say worst case scenario, Kevin just disappeared tomorrow and 250 people were just out their $4,700 or $5,000 or whatever the game was. Is that going to ruin pinball? No, absolutely not. It's not that big of a deal. It's a big talking point, and I think there are people who genuinely do want to hear what I have to say about this for one reason or another. But it's not going to kill pinball. I don't even think it's going to kill pre-order pinball. In fact, I know it's not. There's people lining up to send Highway Pinball money on Aliens. So it's not going to kill pre-order pinball. Quit saying that. When nobody's willing to spend money ahead of a game being released, then you can say that. But that's not the case right now. It's just not. So Ben Heck came out and kind of said Spooky's not building the game for them. Stern's not touching this, obviously. No way. Jersey Jack, I don't think Jersey Jack's going to build this game. 250 games. I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't know where. I don't know. I'm being super dramatic about it, and it almost makes me want to stop and just, take it easy. So whatever. It's not killing pinball. Pinball's actually pretty healthy right now. Coming out of Papa, and the responses I've gotten from the episode 146 about the Papa World Championships, I can tell you, Papa was awesome. Pinball's awesome. I have great people who listen to this show and contribute by sending me their emails and their thoughts, and I'm really sorry that it takes me so long to get back to you sometimes, but I do read everything, and man, I met some great people. Some people I met again at Papa, and I don't have everybody's names, but I know Kevin and Kevin, actually two Kevins, and Craig, and just a bunch of people. Carl, who I didn't even know listened to the show as much as he did. It's awesome. I mean, some of you guys and gals are just really fantastic in supporting this show. So to let something like this mess with Skit B Pinball and Predator make people think that it's going to like bring down pinball sales or something like that, it's just it's kind of nonsense to me in a way. So that brings me to another pre-order pinball situation that we've talked about before, and I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with the names and those involved in the thread on Pinside that documents all the madness. And that's Mr. John Papaduke and the company Zidware and the games that he's been working on: Magic Girl, Radio, Atomic Zombie, Adventureland, Alice in Wonderland, etc., etc., etc. The thread on Pinside is now to like 103 pages. And the person who started that thread, that's called J-Pop Update Thread, which was started 9 months ago, Iceman44, has, in a strange twist of fate, taken on some sort of role with touching base with John and working with John as sort of an advisor, I believe, on the phone, which is interesting to read. And there's this theme that's kind of coming up through this thread, and John recently made the Magic Girl blog open to the public, and I had seen most of this. People who were in on the game had sent me this, I guess in hopes that maybe I would do something with it, but I know that John has non-disclosure agreements out with his buyers, and that's a legal entity in a matter that I'm not really willing to get into, and I'm not going to do that. And out of even just respect to John, I don't care how late his games are, I didn't feel it was right to be promoting that I had seen a lot of that or whatever. And honestly, it's not that much stuff. But now it's public and everyone can see it. And at first, and I could have predicted this had I thought about it. At first, when this blog came open a couple weeks ago or 10 days ago or whenever it was, there was this really interesting turn of positivity towards all of John's games and J-Pop's games. And because people saw how freaking good looking they are, right? Like Magic Girl looks awesome. I would be lying if I sat here on Coast to Coast Pinball and said, whatever, it's just a John Papaduke game, it's no big deal. No. Those games look awesome. I'm jealous. I am jealous of Magic Girl. I want a game that looks like that. I want a game with all these toys that I've seen little pictures of and fisheye lens photos of and seen in the Adobe video that was leaked out a while back. I am so incredibly enamored by the vision that John Papaduke brings to pinball. However, it doesn't matter. Who cares, right? There are no games. It doesn't matter until there are games. And then it matters. Now, if there's 15 or 20 games, it only matters a little bit. Because then we're talking about unobtainium. And I don't really worry too much in life about unobtainium. We have that in the guitar world too, where there'll be these $100,000 limited guitars. They build 10 of them, and it's like, I don't even care. That's silly to me. So that's always been my conundrum with these John Papaduke games, is these tiny limited numbers made me sort of not care, because I can't have it. It's like guys who get all obsessed with like movie stars or pinup girls or whatever, and like they I know guys who like have pictures of famous women, like, at their desks, at their work. And I've always thought that's sort of pathetic on some level, because I don't walk around my day thinking about Scarlett Johansson. I think she's hot. I'm not here to deny that, or whoever. That's just, she lines up right to my eyes. But I don't really spend more than 5 seconds in a week thinking Scarlett Johansson's really hot. But I know guys who are like, oh yeah. Or I know guys who go to like conventions with adult film stars. And I've met these people who do this. And I don't understand it, because you're not going to take them home. Ever. I don't spend my time going to, like, I don't know. I don't know. That some other example. I don't do that. I like things that I can actually have. And luckily, I have like the most beautiful woman in the world in my life. So whatever, Scarlett Johansson. But when it comes to pinball machines, let me try and get myself out of trouble here. I'm really into like what Stern's coming out with, because I can have that, right? That's within reach. Even if I don't have $8,000 for the LE of whatever the next game is, Game of Thrones, and I want that game, I could probably eventually get that game, right? And I see the John Popadiuk games, and yeah, they're beautiful. They're awesome. They've probably got some of the coolest ideas ever seen in pinball. But if he's going to build 15 of them, I don't care. I met John last year, and I really liked him. I went to dinner with him. It was cool. I felt guilty talking about it on this show, because I was like, ooh, I'm so cool. I went to dinner with John Popadiuk. Blah, yada, yada. He sold me, man. He was awesome. He was down to earth. Dude's wearing a hockey jersey. We're at a nice restaurant. He's got all these great stories. I was into it. And I kept up a kind of a line of conversation with him. And, I'm a little bit like, oh, this is neat. Let's see what John has to do. I would love to be the guy that could bring the pinball community more insight into the Popadiuk world. I would like that. Not really for my own ego, but just maybe I'm the guy that cracks the code and can share the information with everybody. I think that'd be good for the pinball community. And I asked John to come on my 100th episode way back whenever that was, and he said yes. He said he'd love to do it. And he said, but I get worried because I take a beating on Pinside. And I said, I know you do. And I said, why don't we just talk about the old stuff? Why don't we not get into all the new stuff? Because I know you're not ready. Because I knew he wasn't ready. I know there's problems. And he goes, okay, we could do that. And I said, look, you never did a Clay Harrell interview. You never did the big Clay Harrell interview. And I've tried to avoid, repeating the interviews or the stories from the Williams and Bally days. And it's just not really that interesting to me. But I thought it would be great for John to get to kind of come on a show, whether it's mine or not, and tell all the stories of the Williams days and the games that he designed. Because, not a lot of games, but those games are all awesome. And he agreed. He said he'd do it. And so I was excited. And I actually put a lot of work into it. I researched the games. I had thoughtful questions. I was going to really let John have a forum just to tell his story and for people to kind of maybe get in his head a little bit. We were going to only touch on the new stuff if he wanted to. I thought I was being incredibly fair. And he canceled the day before we were supposed to record the interview on me. He just kind of canceled and said, I can't do it. Don't want to do it. Not up for that right now. He goes, you need to come see me in person. That's what he told me. He said, you got to come see it here or you won't understand what I'm doing. And I was like, okay, well, I can't just come to Chicago anytime. So, that happened. And I was a little bummed because I'd put some time and energy into it. And I don't get paid for this. I do this for the fun of it. I do this for the creative outlet of it. And I do this because it's appreciated by a lot of people. So I was bummed. Wasted time, wasted effort, and just disappointed I didn't get that. And John went on to do some other interviews later on as he sort of, I think, realized post-Expo that this self-imposed sort of quiet behind the wall type of thing was not really doing anything for him. And I saw him at Expo, and it was a little awkward. And he said, "Hey, Nate." I said, "Hey, John." I said, "Cabinets look good." And he said, "Yeah, here's what I'm doing." And he showed me, and it was cool. And he goes, "Come on out to the warehouse. Come out to my shop." And I said, "I'd love to, but I just don't have time right now." And he said, "Sure, you have time." And I said, "I really don't have time." I said, "I want to have you on the show." And he goes, "No, you got to come out." He goes, I'll put you to work for a day. And you know what? I don't want to work on John Papaduke's pinball machines. That's not what I do. I don't work on pinball games. I talk about them. And that's what I want to do. So I have just sort of taken a very hands-off approach with the whole J-pop thing, because I've had other people write me and tell me that they've had very similar, dealings with John. And it all sort of boils down to, there's no direction there. There's nobody driving the ship. You have this like really creative guy who makes this beautiful stuff, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. If it doesn't come out, if it's never played, even if there are only 15 games, and they at least get out to a few of the shows, then it sort of matters. Maybe not a lot, but it sort of matters. And like, hey, John got these games out. Certainly matters to the people who sent him all that freaking money, right? There's people with like $25,000 plus sent to this man. And here we are. They're arguing about what, electronics are going to go in the game. What's the operating system? And, he's cycled through artists and programmers, and you read reports of parts suppliers not being paid, and he didn't come on my show, right? It's hard for me to get really into that whole situation, because until something actually happens, I don't know that it matters. And I like John. And you know what? Maybe I'm blowing my invitation to his shop. I hope not. I hope John knows that I'm just calling it like it is. And I will always just call it like it is. But I'll always give his products a fair shake. And I don't think I've ever said anything negative about his actual products. But the way this business is being run, with the stop and start, even with Iceman now here in this thread, you can just tell the guy doesn't have direction, and you start wondering where is all this money? Is all that money still there? I don't know. And that question is going to get brought up more and more as time just keeps going on. Time is just running and running on J-Pop's games. And man, we've seen games like assembled and lined up with playfields hanging out of them, but we're stalled somewhere. If there's no operating system, there's probably not complete dots and rules and all that stuff, so I don't think we're that close. It's unfortunate, because I want to see these games get made. And the folks that do have the money in, and we know it's not that many people, but some of them are getting very angry, and eventually it's going to get legal here. And I kind of dread that day, because it was all fun and games when it was just like, oh yeah, mad scientist guy's got my money, hopefully my game comes out. But the Skip B situation has really focused a magnifying glass on everything, because there was more people involved, and I think there's a bit of a fever pitch happening here, if you will. And I think everybody needs to sort of be real with themselves, and if you want to take the public's money, you need to be pretty transparent going forward. It's as basic as it is. So I've been asked by a bunch of people to comment on Skip B and comment on J-Pop, and that's what I got. I think the best move for Kevin in his company and his life and pinball at large would be for him to send all the money back and just kill the thing dead. Kill it dead. And I think the best thing for John Papaduke would be to show us everything you got, tell us exactly where you are, let us know, and find somebody who knows how to run the ship, because I don't think John knows how. And that's too bad, because I think there's a lot of creative energy and a lot of great ideas that could come out of that guy if someone could just focus it and get it done.
Check the email.
All right, let's read some emails. All right. Keith writes me. He says, "Hi, Nate. I'm still pretty new to the hobby, just over a year now, and I've been listening to your podcast since around number 50. I really enjoyed your recent casts as I drove from Boston to Philly to Pittsburgh last week when I attended my first Papa event. I was only in on Friday and really just wanted to get a feel for it and play some of the tables they had. 2 things I can say coming out of Papa. 1, I'm hooked and definitely going to another Papa event and joining my local pinball league. Number 2, I didn't do well and need to develop my flipper skills. Those center drains were a killer. Kevin goes on to say he's not all that competitive, but he can see himself getting more into the tournament scene. I think that's awesome. He likes that he can play like a multitude of games and he can learn the rules. But he says he really realized he needs an actual pinball machine. But his budget right now is between $1,000 and $2,000, which is totally a good budget to start with. I think that's actually a great place to start with. But he says he needs a pin to start really practicing learning flipper skills, catching, passing, shot accuracy, etc. He's listed a couple below that he likes the gameplay on and the general theme. The programming doesn't need to be too deep, he says, as he really wants to focus on developing my skills, which are greatly lacking at this point, as proven in my poor showing in the Classics division. So the games he lists: Pinbot, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Black Knight 2000, Firepower, No Good Gophers, which might be a bit more than 2K, but he loves the game, he says, and Space Station or Space Shuttle. All right, well, I'm going to tell you right now, if those were the games, I would probably buy a really good, if you found a nice Pinbot, I'd buy Pinbot. I think that's a game with long shots that will help you dial in, that sort of thing. I like that. I like Rocky and Bullwinkle, too. I think that's not a bad one either. Out of all those games, me personally, if I could just choose one, I would personally choose from my collection right now Firepower. I'm obsessed with Firepower. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here, Keith, and sorry, but I think the next release from Chicago Gaming and or Planetary Pinball Services should not be something like Attack from Mars or Cactus Canyon. I think they should do something old school. I think they should do like Firepower. How cool would that be to buy a brand new Firepower if they could get the price down on that thing to like $4,000? Maybe that's too low and maybe it can't be done. But a brand new modernized version of Firepower or I don't know, High Speed or something like that that's a little more basic, a little simpler. An alphanumeric game, solid state game. I think that would be so cool. I wish they would do that. But anyway, I digress. Black Knight 2000, we get, all those games are good. I don't know Space Station that well. Space Station was the one in the Papa A bank this year. I wouldn't buy that one. I will say not Space Station because the geometry's weird. It doesn't have traditional slingshots. Don't buy that one. Space Shuttle is the same way, I think. I'm confused on those. I won't speak to that game. No Good Gophers, if you can find one at a good price, definitely buy it. Great game. A very good combination of shots in that. And then I still say, Pinbot or Black Knight 2000 or Rocky Bullwinkle would be great first games. Firepower is definitely of a different era. That one will feel very different. That one's going to be, you see that game in Classics a lot. And if that's going to be your focus, then sure. Love that game, though, and you will dial shots in on that game. And that's a tough game that is so much fun in its simplicity and very cool rule set. So, any of those are going to be really good. You can't go wrong, I don't think. Best of luck. Let me know what you buy. Please, don't be a stranger, Keith. I do appreciate it. Next up, this is from Ben. Hey, Nate, first let me say that I'm a huge fan of your show. Never miss an episode. Smiley face. I especially like to focus on competitive pinball in the last few episodes. To help you and maybe others prepare for future tournaments, a friend of mine coded the website pinballvideos.com. Basically, it's a search engine for all the Papa videos and other pinball-related video content. You can browse between games, players, or events. The neat thing is that the links directly lead to the right spot in those often hours-long videos. The Pinside thread about the site is here. He lists the site on Pinside, the thread on Pinside. And he says, in my opinion, it's a really valuable tool for contest preparation and helps tremendously when searching a specific game or player. The site got featured recently on funwithbonus.com, and maybe you could help get the word out too. Well, that's what I'm doing, Ben. I'm helping get the word out. He says, all the best from Vienna/Europe. Keep up the awesome work. It's a real inspiration for many people around the globe. I don't know about that. That might be stretching it a little bit, Ben. If I'm a real inspiration for people around the globe, then I don't realize it. And then can you please tell me the shipping cost of a Coast-to-Coast shirt to Austria, Europe? I'll have to look that up and I'll email you. But Thank you, Ben. So I'm going to do a little right-click, open link, and new tab action here on pinballvideos.com. Not live here on the show tonight. And just take a look at what the site looks like. Oh, this is actually really cool. I like this a lot. It lists... Yeah, it lists all the games. This is actually awesome. So if you want to find videos, I'm seeing this for the first time. I love it. So like AC/DC is the first game listed, and it has about, 20 entries of all the different video, both tutorials that you might see from like the Bo and Karen's tutorial on Papa, but it also has like Pinball Expo 2014, and it shows different players. Like here's Sean Grant and Zach Sharp playing AC/DC. Southern Pinball Festival, Southern Fried Gamer Expo, I'm assuming that is. Bo and Karen's Jeff Palmer, Steve Bowden, Zach Sharp. Very, very cool. This is a great idea and could really be of a benefit to anybody who's getting ready to play in a tournament. So, absolutely. Thank you for letting me know about that, Ben. I appreciate it. Shout out to Europe from Coast to Coast. Dear Nate, I'd love to know what your inspiration for your new Moon and Clouds logo is. Love the shirt. Can't wait to order one. Signed, David. Well, David, did I not talk about this in the show yet? I thought I meant to. So, I think I talked about this at the original logo. I was really quickly thrown together off of a logo building site. This is back when I assumed Coast to Coast Pinball would be something that a few dozen people might listen to. Show got big, at least bigger than I ever expected. I don't know that it's big, but it's bigger than I expected. And as we inch into 2015, I wanted a new logo that I designed really on my own, with a little help from a friend, albeit, but I ended up changing a lot, so it's really my own design. I pay tribute to the radio show Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell and now George Norrie by literally stealing their name and calling this show Coast to Coast Pinball. I love the concept of the word Coast to Coast because, anybody from the coast to the coast can be listening to it, and we can talk to everybody all at once. I love that concept, and man, honestly, this show is worldwide. I get emails from all over the world. It's awesome. And the moon and the clouds thing is my little way, and I'm going to get really uber deep and kind of silly on you here, but I like to think of the fact that, I don't even want to say this out loud, this sounds so incredibly geeky. So if I'm in San Diego, California, or like tonight, coming to you not live from Westchester, New York, if you're wondering, I look up and I see the moon, right? There's the moon. And let's say you, David, I don't know where you are, but let's just say you're in Japan. In a few hours, you're going to look up and see the moon. Same exact moon for all of us, right? So we're all looking at the same moon. However, what's great about the moon in the clouds is it could kind of be like a pinball and two flippers. See what I'm going for there? This is all ridiculous and kind of a stretch, but you asked, and I'm here to answer. So that's the best thing I got. I kind of like nighttime. I like space. I was into astronomy. So with all that thrown together, you get a pinball podcast with a moon, stars, and clouds logo. All right. Dylan writes here, "Hey Nate, just want to say how much I enjoyed the interview shows. I've been in competitive pinball for a couple years now, with only a couple tournaments under my belt, so this stuff is fascinating. Good luck on your Papa run." Well, my Papa run was more like a stumble, but that's okay. Thank you, Dylan. I do appreciate that. Mike T writes me, "Hey Nate, started listening to your podcast. It's great, and keep building momentum! ! I was looking through your backlog of episodes to see if you've ever interviewed Jerry Stellenberg from Multimorphic/Pinball Controllers. If so, can you point me to the episode, please? If not, please do. I'm sure he's on your radar." I replied to Michael and told him that Jerry came on the show in sort of a remote type setting at the Texas Pinball Festival last year, and I have actually been wanting to do a more in-depth interview with Jerry. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Mr. Papaduke that I try not to want to go back and rehash things that have been done. And Jerry and I actually talked about having him come on the show at one point. And right about that same time, another podcast, one of my peers had Jerry on for a really good interview. So I just didn't feel like we should do it then. In the same month, I would hate Jerry to come on two different shows and say the same thing, because the last thing I want is anybody to find themselves wanting to turn off or not listen to someone is interesting and is very influential in sort of the modern push to different ways of playing pinball as Jerry, I would rather spread that out, and hopefully we will do that soon. I really like Jerry. He's a good dude. He's incredibly smart and insightful, and he's hardworking on this. So yeah, I admire what Multimorphic in the P3 platform and Lexi Lightspeed is going for and doing. I really look forward to the Texas Pinball Festival. I got a fancy little email inviting me to go check out the game at the show in maybe a more, I don't know, private setting. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that. So Jerry, sorry if I'm blowing your cover on your invite there, but I appreciate that, and I will be definitely taking part in that. So yeah, I will have Jerry on the show for sure. I just have, I'll say this about Multimorphic and P3. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I can't wait to see it when it's a little more down the road. I haven't felt like it's, hey, send me money yet. You know, I haven't felt like it's money. It's like, I could see an investor getting into that early. Absolutely. If I was looking to put money into a project in pinball, that could be something. But as far as buying as a final product, I haven't quite been there yet. So I've been wanting to let Jerry get it further done before we go really deep into it. And I think we saw some of that. Actually, the last time I saw Lexi Lightspeed, it was way better. I liked it a lot better than the previous time. So if that trend keeps going, I think we're going to be in for quite a treat at the Texas Pinball Festival. And I look forward to seeing Jerry down there. That's like his home base show. So that'll be really good. And I will do everything I can to have Jerry on the show, either at the show or maybe after the show. We can talk about how it goes, something like that. I'm open to that. I really had a ton of feedback, and that's all time I got for right now for getting into emails. I had a lot of feedback on the interviews, and I appreciate the kind words about the interview shows. We will do more of them. I know there are some other really great players out there who have expressed interest in coming on the show, and some of them just kind of surprised me. Like, I was like, oh, I didn't even know you knew who I was. Sure, I'd love to have you on the show. Let's just not do it after I did all these pre-Papa interviews. Let's wait till we get close to maybe Pinburg or something like that, and talk about it then. Josh Sharp will be on the show at some point this month. That's going to be a monthly segment with Josh talking about competitive pinball play. I know that the national championships are coming up, and then the Pin Masters Pin Golf tournament in Vegas next weekend at the same time as the Texas Pinball Festival next weekend. So we'll either have Josh on before or after that. I don't know which. Also, I have a really good idea for one of the top players in the world who told me, and I will quote him without saying who it was, he told me at Papa, anything I can do to help. And I was like, oh, really? I will remember that. So I had a great idea last night, and I hope to get that in the oven and get it fully baked and send that over to him and see if he's really up for anything I want to do. Because if it works like I think it would, I think it'd be really cool, and I think you, friendly listener, might enjoy that. So that is episode 147. Have a good night, guys. Or day or morning, whatever it is. We'll talk to you again real soon.